Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I've had a few different people ask me because of a couple other YouTubers they've seen lately asking me about cheat reps. Do I think cheat reps have the potential for more muscle growth? So let me put on my +5 head of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. All right, the reason this is coming up is apparently there's a couple other channels out there promoting these again, and people need to understand this is one of those things where the pendulum swings both ways. Every few years, strict form and only strict form comes into vogue. Then there comes into a vogue and popularity cheat reps. Within the training world, at least the physique and bodybuilding world, not necessarily looked at that way in other lifting endeavors. But these things kind of swing back and forth, and one becomes more popular in any given decade, and it just goes back both ways, back and forth, back and forth. You know what the truth is? Let's be objective with this, because people look at things like this and they get this emotional attachment because someone they like says this is good or bad or right or wrong. That's the way it has to be. If you disagree, you're stupid. And people get emotion tied up. You know what? There's no need to have emotion about this. There's no reason to even be dogmatic about this. You know why? Because I don't think this one actually has a right or wrong answer. I'm just going to give my opinion on it. I'm going to give my take on it, and honestly say there isn't a right or wrong. Because truth be told, I don't think when you look at human physiology and you look at muscle growth, I don't think strict form versus cheat reps, if both are used in an ideal manner, I don't think you're going to see one tiny little fucking amount of difference between the amount of muscle you grow from one versus the other. I don't think it actually fucking matters. How you guys like that for an answer? I think they have the exact same amount of muscle growth potential in almost every muscle in the body with a few exceptions. Now, I'll get into why I think that is in just a moment. Now, people are asking me, look, well, Alpha Destiny claims he uses them to bring up his back, and I don't know, maybe he does. I don't have any beef with Alpha Destiny. Don't really particularly care what he says. He does his channel, does his thing. I have no beef or argument with the guy. Not interested in one. Unless he starts promoting a bunch of fake natty bullshit or something, I don't really care. He can do him. He seems to promote decent ideas as far as I can tell, but I don't know for sure. I don't really check out other channels. Scott Herman Fitness. People are saying, and I haven't seen this, by the way, so this is, again, me not quoting anyone. I don't know what changes Scott Herman has made. I don't care what changes Scott Herman has made. But people have said that he recently gained a bunch of muscle mass, and I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it. And they're saying he claims that cheat reps have helped him do so. Again, I don't know that he said that or not. Don't care. I'm just saying what people are repeating. No opinion on that. All I will say, without having seen his results, usually someone who's been lifting a few years never sees big changes in their muscle mass. Never, ever, ever, ever. They might see big changes in their muscle mass from changes in body fat. That's about it, and it'll be an illusion in appearance. The only way guys who've been lifting more than a couple years ever gain a noticeable amount of muscle in a few months is through drugs. That's it. No fucking other way it happens. That's the real world. Now, there can be placebo. Someone might feel like they tried something new and they gained muscle. But, you know, that just is what it is. Now, as far as the actual cheat reps go, I want people to think about this for a moment. What causes muscles to grow? Tension. Doing work. If you work a muscle harder than it's used to working, what's it going to do? It's going to grow, right? If you make a muscle work harder than it is previously used to working over time, it's going to grow a little bit. Fair statement. Science backs it. Everyone's conclusions back it who's watched this in the real world. People who don't read science have observed this in gyms, in prison weight rooms, every single endeavor in the world. Everyone out there who's been watching this for years, who maybe doesn't know anything about science, knows that if you work a muscle harder, it's probably going to grow. Fair enough? I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Scientific studies prove that. Tonnage and workload are the most important factor in how much a muscle grows. All right, that being said, muscles also have limits, meaning on any given set or any given workout, a muscle will actually only work so hard and it will only stimulate so much muscle growth, right? Also agreed, what happens when you try to push a muscle harder than it can go in a single set? You reach muscle failure, right? You reach muscle failure and you can't lift the weight anymore. Does it matter How you got there as far as the muscle failing or it being exhausted from work? Not really. A muscle can only do what a muscle can do. It doesn't matter what style of training you use to get it there as far as the exhaustion goes. A muscle can only do so much work in any given set before it basically poops out. It runs out of gas. So the idea behind cheat reps, the hypothesis, the theory, is that because eccentric reps, we know that eccentric reps are a useful tool for gaining muscle mass, right? They're not the only tool. It's possible to gain maximal muscle mass without doing eccentric reps. It's possible to gain maximal muscle mass by doing deadlifts, pulling and releasing from the top, by pulling rows off the floor and releasing from the top. There's plenty of exercises you can absolutely skip the eccentric rep on and gain maximum muscle mass if you do enough work. But you have to do more work, right? You got to do more reps to achieve it. That's understood. But eccentric reps can stimulate muscle growth. They can stimulate really good muscle growth. So the idea here is that if you cheat the weight up on a cheat rep, because you haven't made the muscle work harder, right? If you cheat on a row, do your biceps work any harder? No. Do your lats work any harder? No. You're just throwing extra muscles in so that you can lift a little more weight. The lats and the biceps are very possibly doing a very similar amount of work if they had been using less weight with a strict form. They're still working probably about the same. Now, the idea there is that you make it easier, or you use a heavier weight, you cheat it up, right? And then because you have to lower the weight with a heavier weight than normal, the eccentric gets more overloading. Therefore, you stimulate potentially more muscle growth. But here's the thing. Eccentric reps and lowering weights uses muscle fibers. It uses muscle fibers. Hitting eccentric failure, meaning the concentric, you're able to cheat the weight up. And in fact, on cheat rows or cheat exercises, whatever you're cheating, cheat curls, you can usually cheat more as you get more exhausted on the concentric, right? So that the weight gets a little easier to lift when the muscle's getting exhausted. And the idea is that, well, but you're still having to take the eccentric reps and you might reach eccentric failure. But you know what? It doesn't stimulate any more muscle growth to reach eccentric failure than to reach concentric failure. It's no reason to think it actually stimulates more muscle growth. It stimulates about the same amount. And what we know from research, going beyond 90% doesn't stimulate any more muscle growth, meaning 90% effort and 100% effort stimulate the exact same muscle growth. They stimulate the exact same strength gains. Understood. The reason people are often told to go to failure, though, is that a lot of people, when they're trying to gain muscle, they don't know what muscle failure is. They might think their 9th rep is 90%, but they actually could have done 11 or 12 if they pushed it all the way out. If you did that, you didn't do 90% effort. You did like 80% effort. It isn't going to be quite as stimulating as if you had got to 11 reps when you're capable of doing 12. And sometimes it's been discussed, and a lot of experts agree on this, that seeking hypertrophy sometimes training to failure can be a fail-safe because you passed the 90% threshold. But if you had stopped legitimately 1 rep short of failure, you actually seem to stimulate about the same muscle growth as if you had hit failure. All right, no real difference. So the thing is, either one of these methods, you can easily get into the 90 to 100% effort range. You can get into the RPE 9 range, which on the RPE scale, that's going to give you the same growth as an RPE 10. RPE 10 or going 100% is there just to kind of test your strength and see where you are, or for a competitive endeavor. Now, all of that being said, you don't recruit any more muscle fibers by doing it the other way because muscles are stronger on the eccentric, meaning it's easier to lower 100 pounds than it is to lift 100 pounds, meaning less muscle fibers are used. So if you're cheating on the concentric to let you use 120 pounds instead of 100, you're still reaching the same amount of muscle fibers if you get to failure or you get within 1 rep of failure doing that. You didn't stimulate any additional growth. You didn't stimulate any additional growth. There's no fucking difference. Now, I'm not saying workloads don't matter, rep ranges don't matter, tension on the bar don't matter. They matter, but we're really getting tit for tat. If you're dealing in the 8 to 10 rep range, for example, and you achieve an RPE 9 using strict form versus achieving an RPE 9 using sloppy form where you cheat and the eccentrics are a little heavier, if you put in 90% effort on that set in roughly the same rep range and you do it for roughly the same number of sets, you're not going to see any difference in the muscle growth. The only time you might see a difference in muscle growth is if the entire way that you're cheating reduces total tonnage, workload, tension, any of that off of one of the muscles that you're trying to grow. Because when you're doing this, well, any cheating turns any exercise into a compound. Cheating on a curl turns a curl into a compound exercise. But the thing is, it's such a light weight with a curl that the other muscles in the body swing and your glutes and your lower back and everything getting involved probably aren't getting enough stimulation to grow on. On a row, if you're, cheat rowing 300 pounds, there are extra muscles in your body that probably are getting more stimulation than they would on a normal row. Those muscles might get a little growth, but your biceps and your lats aren't going to grow anymore. Why would they? People would say, well, it's still putting more tension. No, not really, because if it really is more tension, you'll reach muscle failure sooner. It's more eccentric loading and de-emphasizing the concentric loading. Both produce similar amounts of muscle growth. That's what cheat reps generally are, is using a slightly heavier weight and de-emphasizing the lifting by using other muscles to help cheat the weight up, and then letting the concentric load be the greater growth stimulus. Not really a big difference. And people can say, well, I feel like I get more muscle growth doing it. Okay, well, that's fine. You know what? That's perfectly okay, because if you're doing something and you feel like it's working, you have a delusion in your head that says it's working, whether it's true or not, even if it's producing the exact same results the other thing did, you know what? If you feel on a personal level that you're getting better results from something, you are more likely to continue doing it. What is the number one component in muscle growth and making progress and changing your performance behind progressive overload? It's consistency. And consistency comes with habit. It comes with motivation. It comes with drive. And if you're more motivated to stay more consistent and not miss workouts and not show up in half-ass it and everything because you legitimately believe that a different method is working better for you, is that method then working better for you? Yeah, but it's working for you psychologically. It's not because it's physically better. It's working better because it's psychologically better. You're more motivated. And that's okay. If you legitimately feel that cheat reps work better and that motivates you to keep going, then don't let me tell you to quit. Even though I'm telling you it's going to produce the exact same results. Don't let me tell you to quit. Although what I would tell people, if their goal is to just turn every exercise into a full body exercise, there are better ways to do that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.